My name is Ibrahim Al-Hassan. I am 58 years old, and on November 14th, 2021, my heart stopped beating for 45 minutes. I was pronounced clinically dead in one of the most prestigious hospitals in Cairo, Egypt. My body lay cold, covered by a white sheet, while my family began preparing for my funeral. But what no one in that hospital room, filled with weeping and funeral recitations, knew was that my soul was not resting. It was on a journey that would shatter every certainty I had built over 5 decades of religious devotion. This is my testimony of how I died as a revered leader of Islam and returned with a message that has put a price on my head, but that has saved my soul eternally. I was born in 1963 into a family of Islamic scholars. My father was a respected imam, and his father before him. My destiny was sealed before I could utter my first word. I was raised not only to be a devout believer, but to be a leader, a pillar of faith, a man whose interpretation of the holy law would guide thousands. From my childhood, my life was shrouded in an atmosphere of reverence and strict discipline. While other children played in the dusty streets of our neighborhood, I was sitting in a room lined with books, memorizing the Quran under the severe gaze of tutors who tolerated not the slightest error in pronunciation or tajweed. By the age of 15, I had memorized the sacred book in its entirety. At 25, I graduated with the highest honors from Al-Azhar University, the most important center of Islamic learning in the Sunni world. My ascent was meteoric. I not only had the knowledge, but I possessed the charisma. When I spoke from the minbar on Fridays, the mosque was filled to overflowing. Men from all walks of life, from powerful politicians to humble merchants, hung on my words. My voice echoed across the city's loudspeakers, dictating what was haram and what was halal, the forbidden and the permitted. I enjoyed a status that bordered on royalty. People kissed my hand when I walked down the street. They moved aside to let me pass. Wealthy businessmen sent me gifts, silk carpets from Iran, oud perfumes that cost thousands of dollars an ounce, and chauffeured cars to take me to conferences. I lived in a luxurious villa on the outskirts of the city, with cool marble floors and servants who attended to the needs of my wife and 4 children. From the outside, my life was the perfect image of divine blessing. I was the guardian of the truth, the defender of the faith. But let me tell you something about religious power and outward certainty. They are often an elaborate mask to conceal a deep-seated terror. Despite my impeccable robes and perfectly trimmed beard, despite the admiration in the eyes of my followers, my soul was tormented by a silent doubt that grew like a cancer. I thought about the mercy of Allah, but in my heart, I only felt the crushing weight of His judgment. Every night, after turning off the lights in my luxurious room, I would stare into the darkness, counting my deeds. Had I prayed with enough sincerity? Had I given enough charity? Were my intentions pure? The theology I taught told me that my good deeds had to outweigh the bad on the scale of final judgment. But how could I be sure? There was no guarantee. Even the Prophet of Islam did not know what would become of him after death. That uncertainty gnawed at me. I preached peace, but I had no peace. I preached security, but I lived in a constant state of spiritual anxiety. Hypocrisy surrounded me. I saw other religious leaders, men with whom I shared tea and debates, use religion to gain political power, to oppress the vulnerable, to justify violence. And I remained silent. I remained silent because the system benefited me. I remained silent because questioning was dangerous. But every silence added one more stone to the wall separating my heart from God. As I aged, my health began to deteriorate. High blood pressure and diabetes, common ailments in men of my position and sedentary lifestyle, began to take their toll. But I ignored the doctor's warnings. I believed my piety was my protection. Allah decides the time of my death, I arrogantly told the cardiologists who begged me to rest. How wrong I was to think that my religious position granted me some kind of biological immunity. On November 14, 2021, I was in my study preparing the Friday sermon. The topic was to be about the punishment of the grave for infidels. Ironic, isn't it? I was writing about the judgment of others when mine came without warning. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, as if an iron hand had broken through my ribs and was crushing my heart. The pen fell from my hand, staining the immaculate paper with ink. I tried to scream, to call my wife, but no sound came out. My vision blurred, the world tilted violently, and I fell to the marble floor. The last thing I remember of that world was the cold of the stone against my cheek and the distant sound of my own desperate gasps. When I opened my eyes, or what I thought were my eyes, I was no longer in my study. I was not in the hospital. I was in a place of total darkness. It was not merely the absence of light. It was a tangible, heavy darkness that seemed to have a life of its own. I felt a terror that goes beyond any human fear. I was not alone. I could hear whispers, moans, the sounds of dragging chains, and screams of agony that seemed to come from an infinite distance and, at the same time, be right next to me. I knew, with a horrible certainty, that I was dead. And I knew that everything I had taught, all the rituals, all the prayers, had not saved me from this place. The emptiness was absolute. I screamed to Allah for help. I recited the most powerful verses of the Quran, the ones that were supposed to drive away demons and protect the believer. But my words fell dead in the air, powerless, without effect. The silence that followed my cries was more terrifying than the wailing. I was completely, absolutely abandoned. Think of your worst nightmare. Multiply it by 1,000. Imagine the sensation of falling into a bottomless pit, knowing you will never hit the ground. Knowing that this fall is your new eternity. That's what I felt. Despair took hold of me. All my arrogance, all my titles, my pride in being a leader, vanished. All that remained was a naked, trembling man before the reality of his own inner darkness. Suddenly, in the midst of that suffocating blackness, a point of light appeared. At first it was small, like a distant star, but it grew rapidly, approaching at dizzying speed. The darkness around me seemed to shriek and retreat before that light. It was not a natural light. It was brighter than the desert sun at noon, but it did not hurt my eyes. It was a light that emanated love, authority, and purity. And from that light, a figure emerged. A man stood before me. He wore white robes that seemed woven from the same light that surrounded him. His feet were bare. When I looked up at his face, I gasped. It was not the image of a vengeful angel I expected. It was a face of indescribable beauty and compassion. His eyes, they were like fire and like deep oceans at the same time. They looked at me and I felt they saw everything. Every hidden sin, every doubt, every moment of pride, every secret thought. Nothing was hidden from him. I fell to my knees, trembling violently. I instinctively knew who he was, although my religious mind struggled to deny it. In my culture, we call him Isa al-Masih. But at that moment, the name that resonated in my soul was Jesus. He did not speak with audible words at first. His voice resonated directly inside my chest, like a soft but unavoidable thunder. Ibrahim, he said. He knew my name. The creator of the universe knew my name. Who are you, Lord? I managed to whisper, although I already knew the answer. I am the way, the truth, and the life, he replied. The words struck my soul with the force of a tsunami. Why do you persecute me with your teachings? Why do you guide my people down paths of fear and not of love? I was frozen. I thought I was serving God. I thought I was on the right path. Lord, I have dedicated my life to God. I have memorized the scriptures. I have guided thousands. I stammered, trying to justify myself, as if I could debate with divinity. Jesus approached and extended his hand. I could see the marks on his wrists, the scars of the nails, the reality of his sacrifice, something I had denied and taught others to deny, for Islam teaches that Jesus did not die on the cross, became undeniable before my eyes. He had died, and he was alive. It is not by works, Ibrahim, he said with a tenderness that broke my heart. It is not by how much you pray, nor by how perfect your beard is, nor by how many follow your words. It is by the heart. You have built a cage of rules and called it holiness, but your cup is clean on the outside and full of filth within. Stark. Then he showed me my life. It was like a movie projected in the air. I did not see my great sermons or my moments of public glory. I saw the moments when I ignored a beggar because I was in a hurry to get to the mosque. I saw how I treated my wife coldly, demanding obedience instead of offering love. I saw the pride in my heart when people praised me. I saw the hatred I had sown in the hearts of young students against Christians and Jews. I wept. I wept like a child. The weight of my guilt was unbearable. Under the light of his holiness, my good deeds were like filthy rags. I deserve the darkness, I sobbed. I deserve this place. Jesus knelt before me, closing the distance between his divinity and my misery. He placed his hand on my shoulder. The warmth of his touch flowed through my body, erasing the cold of death. Yes, you deserve it, he said softly. But I paid the price so that you do not have to be here. I love you, Ibrahim. I have loved you since before you were born, and I want you to live. Live? I asked, confused. But I am dead? It is not your time yet, he declared, standing up and lifting me with him. I send you back. You must return and tell them the truth. Tell them that I am not just a prophet. Tell them that I am the salvation. Tell them that fear does not save, only love saves. But they will kill me, Lord, I said, human fear returning to me. If I say this, my own family will kill me. They will call me an apostate. Jesus looked at me with a firmness that instilled in me an unknown courage. Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot touch the soul. I will be with you. You will be my witness in the land of the pharaohs. Now go. The light intensified until everything turned white. I felt a violent jolt, as if I had been thrown from a tall building onto the ground. Subscribe to this channel right now if you want to know more stories that defy logic and touch the soul. Don't miss a single testimony of power. Sound returned first. A sharp, constant beep. Then the smell of antiseptic and death. Then the pain. A sharp pain in my chest, as if broken ribs were healing instantly. I opened my eyes. I was in a cold room with flickering fluorescent lights. I was naked, covered by a sheet. I looked around and terror flooded me again, but this time it was an earthly terror. I was in the morgue. There were tags on my toes. I sat up on the metal gurney, shivering with cold. At that moment, a nurse entered pushing another gurney. When he saw me sitting up, the sheet falling from my shoulders, he let out a scream that must have been heard throughout the hospital. The gurney he was pushing crashed into the wall. He ran out, yelling in Arabic, "Ghost! Shaitan! He's back!" Minutes later, a team of doctors cautiously entered. They looked at me as if I were a monster. They examined me, stuttering, unable to explain what they were seeing. My heart, which had been stopped for almost an hour according to their records, was beating strong and rhythmic. My brain, which should have suffered irreversible damage from lack of oxygen, was clearer than ever. They moved me back to a normal room. They called my family. When my wife and children entered, their faces were a mixture of joy and terrified disbelief. My wife fainted. My children hugged me, crying, praising Allah for the miracle. For the first few days, I kept silent. How could I tell them what I had seen? How could I tell my eldest son, who was already studying to be an imam, that everything we had taught him was incomplete? But the fire in my bones was too strong. I could not contain Jesus within me. A week after my resurrection, I received a visit from 3 senior clerics, my colleagues from the religious council. They came to congratulate me and say that my return was a sign of Allah's favor upon our mosque. They sat around my bed, drinking tea, expecting me to confirm their narrative. Ask yourself this question. What would you do? Would you remain silent to keep your life, your status, your family? Or would you risk everything for the truth? I looked them in the eyes. They were my lifelong friends. Brothers, I said, my voice hoarse but firm. Allah is great, but what I saw changes everything. They leaned forward, eager. Tell us, Sheikh Ibrahim. Did you see the gardens of paradise? Did you see the houris? I took a deep breath. I saw darkness. I saw that our works are not enough. And then I saw Isa. They nodded, smiling. Yes, the Prophet Isa. No, I interrupted. Not just a prophet. I saw him as the King of Kings. He is the Son of God. He is the one who saved me from hell. He told me that the only way to God is through him, not through our empty rituals. The silence in the room was so dense you could cut it with a knife. The smiles vanished from their faces. The elder cleric, a man named Sheikh Omar, stood up slowly, his face contorted with anger. Are you delirious from lack of oxygen, Ibrahim? He hissed. Do you realize the blasphemy you have just uttered? To say that God has a son is the unforgivable sin. I am not delirious. I replied, feeling a supernatural peace. I am saner than ever. Islam teaches us to fear. Jesus taught me to love. He is alive. I saw his wounds. Omar threw his teacup against the wall, shattering it. You are possessed. A jinn has taken the body of our brother. This man is not Ibrahim. They stormed out of my house in a rage. I knew my death warrant was signed. That night, my own family turned against me. My wife wept, saying that I had brought shame to our lineage. My children looked at me with hatred. They locked me in my room, taking my phone and any means of communication. I became a prisoner in my own palace. For 2 weeks, I was subjected to healing sessions. They brought in men who recited verses over me, beat me with rods to cast out the demon, and deprived me of food. They demanded that I renounce my confession. Just say it was a dream, my brother whispered to me. Say you were confused, and everything will go back to normal. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the face of Jesus. I felt his love. How could I deny the only truth that had made me free, even while chained? I cannot deny my Savior, I told them, my body bruised but my spirit unbroken. Jesus is the Lord. On December 5th, I overheard a conversation through my bedroom door. My brother and Sheikh Omar were talking quietly in the hallway. There is no other option, Omar was saying. He is a kafir, infidel, now. His influence is too dangerous. If people know that the Grand Imam has become Christian, many will be lost. He must die. We will say his heart failed again. It will be a natural death in the eyes of the public. Do it tonight, my brother replied. My own blood. Fear tried to paralyze me, but I remembered Jesus' words. I will be with you. I knelt and prayed, not the ritualistic prayers of my past, but an honest conversation. Lord, if you want me with you, I am ready, but if I still have work to do, show me the way out. At 3 a.m., the handle on my door turned. I expected to see my executioner, but the door was locked from the outside. Yet, it opened. No one was on the other side. The hallway was empty. I got up, feeling a renewed strength in my weakened legs. I walked into the hallway. The house was in a sepulchral silence. Everyone was sleeping a deep, unnatural sleep, similar to that of the guards in the story of Princess Amira. I walked past my children's room, holding back tears, knowing I would probably never see them again. I went downstairs. The main door had a state-of-the-art alarm system and double bolts. As I approached, the alarm did not sound. The bolts clicked and opened by themselves. I stepped out into the cool Cairo night. I had no money, no passport, no phone, only the clothes on my back. But I felt an irresistible urge to walk north. I walked for hours, guided by an invisible compass in my chest. At dawn, an old truck stopped beside me. The driver was a Coptic man, Egyptian Christian. I knew it from the small cross tattoo on his wrist, common among Christians in Egypt to identify themselves. Do you need help, Father? He asked. I looked old and gaunt. I need to go far, I said. I am a man looking for Jesus. The driver smiled, a knowing smile. He asked no questions. He took me all the way to Alexandria. There, through an underground network of churches that I didn't even know existed, and had probably persecuted in my former life, I was given refuge. For months, I lived hidden in a basement, reading the Bible for the first time. Every page was like fresh water to a man who had been drinking sand all his life. I discovered that everything Jesus had told me in the vision was written there. I wept reading the Sermon on the Mount. I wept reading about Paul, a persecutor who became an apostle. I was Saul. I was the persecutor. With the help of international organizations, I managed to leave Egypt a year later. It was a dangerous journey, with false documents and moments when I was on the verge of being discovered. But at every checkpoint, in every moment of danger, I felt that same peace I felt in the darkness of death. Jesus blinded the eyes of the officers or gave me the exact words to say. Today I live in Europe under a new identity, although my face is known. I have lost everything the world considers valuable. My wealth, my status, my home, my family. My wife divorced me in absentia, and my children have publicly disowned me. To them, I am dead. And in a way, they are right. The old Ibrahim, the arrogant, fear-filled man, died on that hospital gurney. The man before you today is a new man. I work with Muslim refugees arriving in the West, sharing with them not a religion, but a relationship. I tell them that they do not need to earn God's love, because God already loved them so much that he came down to find them. I have received death threats. There are fatwas issued against me, but I am not afraid. How can I fear death when I have already been there and seen who holds the keys? My ministry is not large or luxurious. We meet in small rooms, sometimes in houses. But when I see the eyes of a man or a woman light up as they understand for the first time that they are loved unconditionally, I feel a richness that no palace in Riyadh or Cairo could match. Brothers and sisters, I do not know your situation today. Perhaps you are religious but feel empty. Perhaps you are an atheist and think this is all fairy tales. Perhaps you are sick or scared. I challenge you to do what I could not do until it was almost too late. Ask for the truth. Do not ask for confirmation of what you already believe. Ask for the truth, with a capital T. If Jesus is real, he will reveal himself. You do not need to have a near-death experience to know him. He is one prayer away. Look into your own heart. Do you have peace? Do you have the absolute certainty of where you will go if your heart stops tonight? I had all the theological answers and no security. Now, I have nothing material, but I have eternal security. Jesus is not a distant historical figure. He is not just a prophet. He is the Lord of life. He pulled me out of the deepest darkness, from the very edge of hell, so that I could tell you today, there is hope, there is forgiveness, and there is a love so great that it breaks the chains of death. Do not wait until it is late. Do not wait to see the darkness to seek the light. Subscribe if you believe that God exists and that Jesus is still performing miracles today. Share this message, because you never know who needs to hear that there is life after death. God bless you.